Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Steam Forward podcast. As always, I'm your host, Savannah, and today our guest is Phillip Calloway, MS, and he is an owner of two businesses, Sir Calloway Incorporated, as well as the Influencers Realty Group. He also helps one of our sponsors here, Trinity Church. He teaches a class all about financial freedom and how a person can get out of debt and stay out of debt. So, everyone, please help me welcome our guest, Phillip Calloway. Woo!
Thank you so much.
Welcome. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well.
You doing
appreciate that really welcome, that, feeling that I got for announcing me. Makes me feel good.
You should. You have lots of accolades. So just begin to tell us a little bit about yourself. Have you lived in Miami your whole life? How old are you, if you're comfortable sharing that? How long have you been in business?
Okay. So I'm a Miami boy, 305 till I die, born and raised down here. And I'm 40 years old now. Okay. Feels a little weird to say I'm 40.
You don't look 40.
I don't look 40 either, but, my birth certificate definitely lets me know that I'm 40. Been in business now for myself. I started my first company in 2008, I want to say. Mm-hmm. No, 2013. That's what it was, 2013. So I started that company in 2013, the Sir Calloway Group. And then I've been in the real estate business since 2015.
Wow. Okay. So how did you get into business? Like, what inspired you to?
So, long story short, I used to teach middle school.
What?
I was a middle school teacher for 6.5 years.
What subject?
I taught English and I taught special needs.
Wow. Okay.
And then I got my master's degree in sports management, and I swore up and down when I started grad school that I was going to be a basketball coach. My best friend, he went the basketball coach route and wound up, now he's like the assistant athletic director at like a D1 university.
Wow.
And then my godson's father, we all started at the same time, and he's the assistant coach at a D2 university.
Yeah.
So we all went in with that same path. I got to my first class, which was sports economics, and realized that I would make so much more money in life if I didn't go the basketball coaching route, and kind of fell in love with the business of sports.
Right.
Wound up leaving the school and getting into the ticket business.
Right.
So I sold tickets with a company called White Glove, and we essentially sold tickets to everything. You can think of it, and they needed a ticket to get in, we sold it. So we were the official ticket partner of the Miami Heat.
That's awesome.
So when LeBron and Wade and all those guys were here, it was doing that.
It was hot and popping.
Yeah. Crazy. Not like the Heat now. I love the Heat, but you wouldn't have to worry about whether or not they're going to win or not.
They're a work in progress.
Exactly. So I did that. I did the World Cup. I spent 18 days in Brazil for the World Cup. I went to Spain and did the World Cup of basketball. I've done 5 Super Bowls, Final Fours, pretty much any sporting event, concerts. I even did like a music festival in the middle of Mississippi one year.
Wow.
So kind of really got to see the whole business behind events and event planning and ticket sales and all of that. And 2015 is when LeBron left in 2014,
right? And
then Wade left in 2015, and then was like, I could kind of see like, hey, this isn't going to be popping like that anymore. So I decided to get my real estate license because I was having a conversation with a friend, and it was like, if I can sell tickets to events, I can sell someone a home.
Right.
Nobody needs a ticket, but everyone needs a place to live. And so I just kind of took a chance and was like, hey, let me try this and see where it goes, and nearly never looked back.
And you kind of turned it into your own business, working for somebody.
Exactly. I got licensed in 2015, and then I got my broker's license in 2019, right before the pandemic. And then I decided to start my own firm and just kind of run with it from there.
Wow.
Was really nervous when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Because I had just started, not even 6 months in, and then the pandemic comes. And I was really worried, but I was like, you know what? God's got me.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure this out. And it wound up turning to be like the best 2 years of, real estate.
Right.
So, kind of rode that wave, and, the ebbs and flows that come with it. And so, now my firm, we do property management. We do obviously sales, leases, commercial. So it's a little bit of everything, but, it's a fun journey.
Yeah. So why why did you decide to have your own business rather than working for another company?
So when I was doing the ticket thing, I watched my boss at the time, and I was kind of like his right hand, and he taught me a lot.
Right.
But a lot of the stuff I learned is stuff that I said I would never do in business. So I learned really good things from him, but I also learned some really bad things that I was like, you know what, I'm never going to do this if I'm in that position.
Right.
And so one of the things I watched was how, him and I had a conversation one day where he's like, business isn't great anymore, and, I'm not going to be able to afford to give you your salary. I need you to take a month off unpaid and just, figure things out. Now, I was in a place where I was good. I had gone through, some financial training and really learned how to handle my own money. So I was okay. But I thought, I was like, we just rode the biggest wave when LeBron was here. And you were like printing money. And for you to turn around a year later and you don't have enough money to pay your employees, I'm like, what kind of...
His projection, he didn't really
He wasn't thinking exactly. And so I was just like, I never want to be in that situation again.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't like I was stealing, or it wasn't like I was a bad employee or anything like that. It was just that, his mismanagement of the company meant I didn't have a job.
Right.
And then I was going to have to take time off. And so I just figured, I was like, if I'm going to be in a situation where I got to figure things out like this, I want it to be because I was the boss and, I made decisions and I have to live with those decisions versus living with the consequences of someone else's poor decision.
Yeah. So you own these businesses. So how did you get into debt cancellation? Have you always been debt free? Was it just something that you felt the market needed?
So really interesting. My class, Financial Freedom, that I teach is founded around the principles of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University.
Right.
So when I was before I left that job that I was telling you about, I met somebody and they kind of convinced me to go and take this class with them. They were like a huge Dave Ramsey believer. They listened to his podcast every day and whatnot. And so I kind of bought in and I just listened to it and I was like, okay. And I went through the course and at the time I was making really good money.
Yeah.
I was making more money than I had probably ever made in my life at that time.
Right.
And I was traveling all the time. Buying flashy stuff and having, living my best life type deal. But I still had debts.
Yeah.
I was not, I didn't really have a savings. Like I had, I saved enough to make sure that my bills got paid.
Right.
But I wasn't really saving for the future. So when I took the class with this person, I really kind of changed my thought process. Like I took one check and just paid off my student loans.
Right.
Took another check and paid off some other debts. Like really sat down and saved up a bunch of money so that, I would have 3 to 6 months of expenses. And just really focused on like applying the principles of the class to my own life. And it completely changed my life. And when this situation happened where my boss came to me and it was like, hey, X, Y, and Z, I was like, okay, cool. Like, no worries. I've got the money. Like, my savings account's set up the way that I can live with, this decision. And it put me in a situation where it's like, I don't ever want to be like this again.
Right.
But at the same time, I was okay because I was prepared.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, you never know when that conversation is going to happen. But because I was prepared, I was fine.
Right.
And it was just a matter of, okay, I have to switch lanes and, switch gears type situation. But outside of that, it was more of an inconvenience than like oh my God, what am I going to do type situation.
Right. So there's a lot of students or kids that watch this podcast. So how would you say a person or an individual gets into debt to begin with?
I would say that most people get into debt, one, because they don't save money.
Right.
And two, because credit cards and student loans are like a thing.
Yeah.
There's this common misconception that you have to have a student loan to be a student. There are so many ways you can go to school, to college really, or university, and not need a student loan. But most people aren't thinking like that. Most people think, oh, I'm just going to take out a student loan. I'm going to fill my FAFSA. I'm going to get my student loan money, and I'm going to be good. And, unfortunately, a lot of them aren't thinking, they're not planning that far ahead. So they're not like, okay, outside of the kids who, there's a few of your students who are going to say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Those kids, they have that, and, very few of them will fall off that path. But when they're in the college. But, I didn't know what I was going to major in when I went to undergrad, when I started.
Same.
So you're messing around, you're taking classes that, you may or may not really need. You're trying to get a feel of things. You're young. A lot of times it's the first time you're on your own. You're living on campus, or, you're doing your thing. And all of a sudden, like, bills come up. Mom and dad aren't there to take care of everything. Or if they are, they're not taking care of everything. They're taking care of the major stuff, and you got to figure out the small stuff. So I feel like that's how a lot of people get into debt. When one of the things I teach in my class is that, every dollar that comes in, if you make $1, 10 cents belongs to the Lord, because you're tithing.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that you do. And then from there, the second thing you do is pay yourself.
Yeah.
So the concept of 10 cents goes to God, 10 cents goes to my savings account, I can live on the other 80 cents. So when I get paid $1, I don't get paid $1. I get paid 80 cents. And I got to live off the 80 cents.
Right.
And if you really, really want to take it somewhere, you live off 70 cents and you really put 20 cents away.
Right.
Tithe 10, you save 20, and then you live off the 70.
Right.
So, I tell younger people, you're living it. You got a part-time job, and you get $100 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're living your best life already, because you've got your own money to spend. You don't have to ask mom and dad how you're spending it. But what are you doing with that money?
Yeah.
If you're spending 100, it's over, because one day you're not going to have that job. And if you save a little bit here and there, eventually it's going to add up, and eventually you'll have enough to be able to do things. But most people, they spend whatever they get.
Right.
And that's how you, and that bad habit of spending everything turns into, oh, I need a credit card because I need to spend more.
Right.
I need to spend more money than I actually bring in.
Right. And I think a lot of misconceptions, I would say, is that if I just make more money, I'll be okay. But the more you make, I feel like the more you spend.
The more you make, the more you spend, and the more more things that are pulling on you.
Right.
Right. The more, and especially if you are the breadwinner. Right. All of a sudden, you're the breadwinner. You went from making no money to having no money to being the breadwinner of the household. So now you not only have to take care of your bills, but you're taking care of, family members and helping them. Everyone all of a sudden has got their hand out asking you for something. And it's really hard to be able to say no.
Yeah.
It's really tough, especially if, when you're growing up and you've watched certain bad habits or certain things in your home, and all of a sudden now you've got money and you feel that need to, hey, let me take care of this, let me take care of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, are you putting something away? Are you putting that 10% away for yourself, to make sure, because, the Bible says, it rains on the just and the unjust.
Yeah.
So one day the rain's going to come.
Yeah.
And, we're in South Florida. It was raining today, and don't you feel better when you have an umbrella in your car?
Yeah. Right.
Now, if you got in your car this morning and were like, you know what, it's not going to rain today. The weatherman says it's not going to rain. I'm going to be good. And you got in your car, you got dressed, you're looking cute, you go outside, and then all of a sudden it starts raining and you have no umbrella.
Yeah. Your day's ruined.
Your day's ruined.
Yeah.
Well, you're probably your week's ruined now, especially if you just got your nail done, your hair done, you're like, it's over.
Yeah.
But had you just taken the time to prepare and have that umbrella with you, it would have changed your whole outfit, changed your whole outlook. And and that's not even talking about maybe paying attention and like actually checking the weather, seeing, hey, what's going on. And, so that's kind of like how I look at it.
Right. So I guess my final question for you is, what is something practical our viewers can take with them today? Let's say they've gotten themselves into debt, whether that be small or big. What would be my first step into saying I need to have some debt cancellation in my life today?
All right. The first step I would say is to write a budget. the fastest way to build wealth is to spend less money than you make.
Right.
So if you create a budget and you know how much money you need each month, a lot of people don't even know how much money they spend in a month.
Right.
60% of Americans have no idea how much money they spent last month.
Yeah.
So if you can start with, hey, this is how much money I'm spending. This is how much money I'm bringing. I need to spend less than I'm making. That right there, that'll help you. Now, that's not going to get you out of debt, but that's the first step. From there, we can talk about, okay, paying a little bit off more and more each month From there, we can talk about, paying a little bit each of your debts off each month and eventually getting yourself out of debt. There's a whole conversation about saving 3 to 6 months of expenses so that when hard times do come, you're not going to the credit card in order to make ends meet, because you've got that buffer system. I sleep a whole lot better at night knowing that I've got money in my savings account. That way, if something does come up, then I'm okay. But I'd say first and foremost, live off a budget. Know how much money you're spending, and then from there you can kind of start working on paying off debts and whatnot. And then everyone's got a credit card. Everyone does, and I'm not knocking credit cards. Credit cards are a really expensive way to live, though. Yeah. So if you can get your spending under control, then you only have to touch the credit card in true emergencies. But even then, if you have the savings, you don't have to touch it.
So I said that was my final question, but a question came into my brain because we started talking about credit cards. So a lot of kids and students watch TikTok, and one of the big things that you see on TikTok is that people encourage you to live off your credit cards and just pay on your credit cards. Don't use any other kind of money. Just live on your credit cards and just use your income to pay off those credit cards. Is that a smart, responsible way to live?
If you're a business owner, sure.
Right.
If you're an established business owner and you've got solid financial principles in place, then sure, that's you're leveraging other people's money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in business if I didn't know how to leverage money. But if you are regular Joe Blow, living on your W-2 and, you get your paycheck every 2 weeks type situation, you don't need to be living on a credit card. You need to be living on your debit card. You probably shouldn't even have a credit card.
Right.
Let's just be real.
That gets you into low.
That's only going to cause problems. Live off your debit card. Your debit card has the same protections of a credit card.
Right.
You can rent a car, I can't rent a car without a credit card. Yes, you can. You just can't rent a car you can't afford without a credit card.
You also have to be 25. So
you have to be 25 and all, but still, there are certain things that if you do them, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You can buy online. You have all the same protections. Visa, MasterCard. They all say this: the debit or the credit card offers you the same protections.
Right.
So if someone steals your debit card, the bank's going to give you all your money back from the debit card the same way they would on your credit card. So there's no real reason that, somebody who's just starting out is living on a credit card.
Right. Yeah, a lot of misconceptions out there. And I see those videos often, and I'm like, these people are just regular, office desk workers who are encouraging people to live off their credit cards.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd stay away from that. Your credit card, a lot of credit cards are charging 29% interest.
They can, for sure. Especially the people that have more like the merchandise ones, like for stores.
Macy's cards.
Yeah, or I don't know, like a clothing store. I'm like, that's not probably the best thing to have, but...
Yeah. Well, you know what happens with the Macy's and the Victoria's Secrets and, the JCPenney's, I think if they're still around, is that they get these credit cards. They offer, 60 days or 90 days, same as cash. They don't pay it off in that time. And now they're getting hit over the head. And then what happens is they don't pay it.
Yeah.
And then now you see 3-4 years down the line, they've got $500 in collections from Macy's that they never paid off because they forgot about it. Or somebody told them, they saw on TikTok that, if you don't pay it, it goes away after 7 years.
Yeah.
It's not going away after 7 years. You got to pay your debts.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that before, too. It goes away after 7 years.
Yeah. That's a very common misconception.
Oh, well, let's just wrap up this show with, so we like to wrap up every podcast with a word of the day. So, Phil, after this conversation and through all your experience of business and debt cancellation, what would be one word to wrap up that experience?
Patience.
Patience.
Because it's never going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
You're not going to get rich overnight. You're not going to get out of debt overnight. You didn't get into debt overnight.
Right.
So you have to have patience. You have to be committed to it, knowing that, it's going to take some steps. It's going to be uncomfortable at times. It's like working out. You don't go in the gym the first day and all of a sudden you have a six-pack.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes time. And so being patient, being committed to that process of, I want to get out of debt, or I want to establish a savings account. I want to do these things. Okay, it's going to take some time. It's going to take discipline. It's going to take perseverance, but it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys heard it here first. You don't get rich overnight. That it's a process. It takes time. Thank you, Phil, so much for sharing your knowledge here with us. I learned a few things, and I hope you guys learned a couple of things. And as always, there's two sponsors that we love to thank, and those are Trinity Church and the Children's Trust. And don't forget that there's 3 ways in which you can listen or watch this podcast. If you'd like to watch, follow us on YouTube. But if you'd like to listen, follow us on Apple and Spotify. Remember, this is